Welcome back to the Willadelphia Show. On this episode, we dive into the state of the Phillies offseason, my gripes with Dave Dombrowski, and how I think they should approach the rest of the offseason as spring training approaches. Welcome back to the Willadelphia Show, everybody. I'm your host, Will Barbera, and this is the state of the Phillies offseason. We got to get right into it because we got so much to cover, all right? Dave Dombrowski has been an absolute terrorist this offseason to his own team all offseason. He has constantly one-upped himself by saying and doing stupid things that has made me and every other Phillies fan scratch our heads. He started the offseason by saying that he doesn't think the Phillies need to make any moves because we have as many star players as any team in baseball. He then basically called out first baseman Bryce Harper in a press conference, saying that he believes the former MVP is no longer an elite player. Just an all-time bad PR move, in my opinion. Then, after signing outfielder Adolis Garcia to a one-year, $10 million deal, he said he feels like the outfield is set for the upcoming season. And then after that, he traded relief pitcher Matt Strahm to the Kansas City Royals in exchange for another reliever, Jonathan Bolin. Meanwhile, the Phillies have not re-signed JT Realmuto, Ranger Suarez, or even Harrison Bader. Right now, Rafael Marchand would be the Phillies' opening day catcher with Garrett Stubbs as the backup, okay? I have so many thoughts about all of these. My mind is racing. Number one, I understand the Phillies are a top 5 team in baseball in terms of payroll, okay? But watching us perform worse than we did the year before every year in the playoffs should be an indicator that something needs to change. What that thing is up for discussion. We can talk about it. Like, should the Phillies have spent $155 million on Kyle Schwarber in his age 32 season instead of trying to shake up the roster? I don't know. Probably not. Why haven't they tried to restructure Aaron Nola's contract to free up more cap space and to make more moves? That's a really good question. I don't know. Why is Nick Castellanos still on the roster? That's a really, really good question. I don't know. That's the best question anybody's asked me today. Who knows why that guy's still on the roster? I can't stand that guy. But doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result is the definition of insanity. Running it back with the exact same group of players and then turning to your fan base and telling them to expect a championship is like buying a paint-by-numbers book and trying to sell it to an art collector for a fortune. Like, does he think we're stupid? Like, does he think we're just going to be like, wow, I am so excited to watch the same group of players who have yet to win anything win this year? By the way, I grew up on a stupid farm eating moron seeds. Hey, Dave. Phillies fans are as smart as they come. I know that we have some reputation like we're a bunch of knuckle-dragging morons, but this isn't Detroit or Boston or wherever the hell you used to work, okay? You're going to get run out of this city if you don't start taking this as seriously as we do, okay? Now let's get to the Bryce Harper comment because this really made me angry. Listen. Bryce Harper is the heart and soul of the Phillies, in my opinion, okay? A lot of people think it's Schwarber. I actually disagree. As much as I love Kyle Schwarber, he would have never come to Philly if it weren't for Bryce Harper. And I think you can say that about most of the star players that we've acquired in free agency since Harp signed here. I mean, whether it's Zach Wheeler or Trey Turner, even Nick Castellanos before he became a douchebag, any of them, they all wanted to build on what Bryce started to build here. Bryce Harper is by the way, Bryce Harper is already one of the greatest Phillies of all time. That's not up for discussion either. He's been named to 2 All-Star teams. He's won 2 Silver Sluggers and an MVP award. He is 25 home runs away from reaching top 10 status in franchise history. Now, with all that being said, he struggled to stay healthy for a full season the past few years. And because of that, his numbers have been down. But his biggest reason for Harper's regression has nothing to do with injuries, in my opinion. Every single pitcher that the Phillies will face and have faced since Bryce Harper signed has circled his name on the lineup card as the one person in the lineup that you can't let hurt you. That means they aren't going to pitch to him unless they absolutely have to or unless they have nothing to lose. A good way to make sure that pitchers have no choice but to pitch to him is to put a solid cleanup hitter behind him in the lineup. You think the Phillies might have done that once ever? It's crazy that the Phillies have yet to do that in his tenure with the team. I thought maybe we had finally done that when we signed Schwarber, but for some reason that I still can't figure out, and we're entering year 5 of Kyle Schwarber, by the way, Kyle Schwarber only ever hits leadoff or second in the lineup for some reason. A lot of Schwarber's success comes from the fact that pitchers have to pitch to him because they can't pitch around him to get to Harper in the on-deck circle. So why doesn't Harp get the same treatment? It's been a whole lot of Rhys Hoskins, Nick Castellanos, Alec Boehm, and JT Realmuto hitting behind Harp since he signed here. All due respect to all of those players, none of them are good enough to hit behind Bryce Harper in the lineup. And I'm not saying that Harper has no blame for his shortcomings. I have my own gripes with Bryce Harper and the way he handled things this offseason and last season. But I am saying that the Phillies don't really put him in a position to be the type of player that he is capable of being. And that starts with Dave Dombrowski. So when Dombrowski comes out and says that the team doesn't think that Harper is an elite player anymore, I get pissed off because you haven't put him in a position to be the elite player that he's capable of being. So you can't say that. And then there are these morons out here that think that Dombrowski just said this to light a fire under Harp for the upcoming season. Personally, I don't think Dave is that smart or dumb, depending on which way you think. But to think that he would do something that risky just to get a rise out of a guy who is already an insane competitor, knowing that it could full well jeopardize the team's relationship with its star player, I just don't see it. But either way, it looks like it's lit a fire under Bryce Harper because he posted a video of himself putting in work in the cage with a sweatshirt on that said, "Not elite." This is the exact type of psycho, ultra-competitive behavior that I love when athletes get into. Be petty. Be so petty. You don't think I'm an elite player? I'm going to show you exactly how elite I am this year. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. I hope to God that he has the elite season that I'm dreaming of him having in my mind right now because he's going to make Dave Dombrowski look like an idiot. And honestly, the more I talk about Dave Dombrowski, the more I'm convinced that's what he is. So anyway, now let's get to another point here. The Adolis Garcia signing. It's fun, but people are acting like we have a surefire cleanup hitter because we got him on a 1-year, $10 million deal. Okay, those people need to take a step back and touch grass for a second, okay? Here are Garcia's numbers over the past 3 seasons. 2023, he played in 148 games. He had 245 with 39 home runs and 107 RBIs. That's elite production, especially for somebody that's supposedly your cleanup hitter. 2024, 154 games. He had 225 with 25 home runs and 85 RBIs. 2025, that's last season. He played in 135 games. He had 219 with 19 home runs and 75 RBIs. That is a steady dip in both batting average and production in each of the past 3 seasons. There is a reason that Texas let a 2-time All-Star and proven playoff performer walk out the door. There is also a reason that the best offer he got on the open market was a 1-year, $10 million prove-it deal from the Phillies. I understand that this is a low-risk, high-reward signing that could work out very well for the Phillies. I also understand that there is a very little chance that a healthy Garcia would somehow be worse than anything that Nick Castellanos was doing for the Phillies last season. But the people who are automatically assuming that we are getting close to 40 home runs while protecting Schwarber and Harper in the lineup, slow your roll, okay? Just slow your roll. And this brings me to my next point, which is that Dombrowski made this signing and then said, "We feel confident with where the outfield is." Oh, do you? Why? Why? Seriously, give me a reason. Right now, the outfield, here's the outfield. Here's what the outfield's projected to be. Adolis Garcia in right field. Justin Crawford in center, and that's assuming he makes the opening day roster out of spring training. But they seem to be banking on him being the everyday center fielder, as if to say he's not going to struggle as a rookie. And then Brandon Marsh and Otto Kemp platooning in left field. I already broke down what we could get from Garcia, and I do like Crawford. I'm not saying I don't. I just worry about naming him the starting center fielder before he has ever even had an at-bat in the show. And yes, he had 335 in AAA last season. And yes, I really wanted the Phillies to call him up towards the end of the season to compete for an outfield spot. But they never did because he wasn't ready, right? So what's changed? And I think he has a lot of potential and a lot of upside. But not having a backup plan in case he struggles is stupid. It just is. And I'm not saying that you have to go out and sign Kyle Tucker to play left field, although that's not the worst idea I've ever heard, but we'll get to that in a little bit. But Harrison Bader's still out there on the open market, man, and the Phillies are foolish not to at least try to re-sign him. It boggles my mind. In 50 games after the Phillies acquired him at the trade deadline from Minnesota last year, he hit .305 with 5 home runs and 16 RBIs while playing elite defense in the outfield. And he did that all, mostly while platooning with Brandon Marsh in the outfield. He seemed to mesh really well in the clubhouse, and his skill set fits a need for the Phillies. And the puzzling part is that he hasn't signed with anyone else yet, and he's 100% an affordable option for the Phillies. I think he's a great platoon option for center until Crawford gets his feet under him. And let's say that Crawford gets off to a hot start and it makes me look like an idiot because he's just knocking the cover off the ball. Okay, well, now you have a better platoon option in left field for Brandon Marsh other than Otto Kemp. I'm not saying you have to break the bank to upgrade the outfield, but a little self-awareness would be nice, Dave. And the last thing I'll touch on with Dombrowski is the Matt Strahm trade. And a lot of you might be going, why are you even talking about this? Because I think that they mishandled this. The Phillies traded left-handed reliever Matt Strahm to the Kansas City Royals in exchange for right-handed reliever Jonathan Bolin. A reliever-for-reliever swap usually doesn't consist of a name as big as Strahm's. And that's why it was so puzzling to me that they pulled the trigger on this. And when the idea of trading Strahm first came up, which happened about a week before this trade was made, I thought it's not the worst idea because maybe you ship him in a package for someone for a proven back-end reliever. I'm like, that's not a bad idea because doing that frees up more cap space to either go get someone to add to the lineup or to bring back one of the free agents that you want to re-sign on the open market if that's in the cards. And then we make this trade for a completely unproven right-handed reliever. In 66 games last season, Strahm had a 2.74 earned run average and 70 strikeouts in 62 and a third innings. In 34 games last season, Jonathan Bolin had a 3.86 earned run average with 46 strikeouts in 34 and a third innings. As soon as I saw those numbers, I got really angry and I got really frustrated and confused because why in the world are we trading one of our best and most proven relievers to the Kansas City Royals for a completely unproven guy with nowhere near the numbers to make it worth it? And some people are out there probably going and looking at Strahm's playoff numbers and going, that's it, I figured it out, eureka. Don't get me wrong, his numbers are bad. It's a 4.66 earned run average in only 9 2/3 innings over the last 3 playoff appearances in Philly. Three playoff seasons, 3 postseasons. But Bolin has no playoff experience. He's been on the Kansas City Royals, so I'm not really sure how that helps you. The Phillies did sign right-handed reliever Brad Keller to a 2-year, $22 million deal a few weeks ago. So my guess is that they expect Keller to replace Strahm and that they like Bolin's stuff enough that they feel like he can bring value to the bullpen. That being said, I think trading one of your best relievers and arguably your best left-handed reliever for a complete unknown just to offload salary instead of bringing in a decent replacement was forced. And I feel like there were definitely better deals on the open market that the Phillies could have gotten. It's been a rough offseason for Dave Dombrowski. Here's how we can get back in my good graces, all right? There are a few scenarios that would get me to fully buy back into the Phils going into the 2026 season. Firstly, we need to address catcher, okay? Unfortunately, I don't think JT's coming back. I just don't. I feel like he would have resigned by now, and the fact that he hasn't makes me think he has other suitors out there on the open market. And as much as I respect JT for everything he's done here, this is a prime opportunity for the Phillies to get younger at a premium position. There aren't many catching prospects in the Phillies farm system to bank on, and the free agent catching class is pretty slim, so the trade market is your best bet. I've seen a lot of people bring up Adley Rutschman on the Orioles, but I think if they were really done with him, they would have dealt him at the winter meetings because he'd get a better return than I think what the Phillies can give. And the reason Philly fans want him is the same reason Oriole fans want to keep him. It's simply too early to give up on a talent that was the consensus number 1 pick just a few years ago. But there is a much more realistic alternative waiting in the American League Central with a team the Phillies have done business with in the past recently. Minnesota Twins catcher Ryan Jeffers has been bounced around in trade talks all offseason because he's set to be a free agent after 2026. He's a 28-year-old who hit .266 with just 9 homers and 47 RBIs in 119 games last season, which is down from his 21 homers and 69 RBIs in 2024. His hard hit metrics were above league average last season, meaning he could be in for a bounce-back season in 2026. The Twins are in the midst of a long and what is most likely going to be a brutal rebuild. They would be stupid not to trade him right now and get something for him before he walks out the door next offseason. The downside of trading for Jeffers is that he is absolutely a downgrade defensively from JT. But so are most of the other catchers in Major League Baseball, if we're being honest. I think that Philly fans have kind of been spoiled for years because we went from a great defensive catcher like Chooch to a great defensive catcher like JT, with just a few short years in between where we were dealing with like Cameron Rupp and Eric Kratz. In this case, I would be willing to sacrifice JT's defense to get younger at the position with a higher offensive upside. Next, they need to add another outfielder. I already explained how I feel about Dombrowski being complacent with the current situation. I think it's foolish. First option, and most likely the easiest, we already talked about. Re-sign Harrison Bader. I don't care if you have to give him a prove-it deal like you did with Garcia or if you have to sign him to a 3-year extension. He's not going to be all that expensive. You know he's going to mesh well with the team, and his skill set fits a need. Don't overthink this. However, if you wanted to overthink it, really overthink it. And by that, I mean go make a big move. Kyle Tucker, the number one free agent on the market coming into this offseason, remains unsigned. Lots of people are speculating that he is still unsigned because he is not getting the value he thought he would on the open market. If that's the case, the Phillies should try to swoop in and give him a few-year, high AAV deal to play right field. You move Garcia to left, and then you have Marsh and Crawford in center with Kemp and Wilson as bench options to platoon if need be. Tucker protecting Schwarber and Harper in the lineup would be ideal. And if we get the better version of Garcia, the lineup would be a problem for opposing pitchers. I mean, that's scary. And the other thing they could do is make a blockbuster trade. I've been vying for this for well over a year now because I'm a big fan of this player. And the best outlet for a trade in the outfield, in my opinion, is trading for Minnesota Twins center fielder Byron Buxton. He's had problems with injuries in his career, granted, but he was able to play in 120 games for just the second time in his career last season. And in those 126 games that he played, he hit .264 with a career-high 35 home runs, 83 RBIs, and he also added another 24 stolen bags. He was named an All-Star, a Silver Slugger, a Golden Glove winner, and he finished 11th in American League MVP voting. The injuries are always going to be a concern, but if the Phillies trade for him and he can stay healthy, they are getting a potential 40-40 player with elite defense in center field. And the Twins are also in a complete rebuild, like I said about Jeffers. And Buxton was one of the few key pieces that they decided not to move at last year's trade deadline, but things have changed. Things have clearly changed. So depending on what the asking price is, I think he would only help the Titans. So that's the outfield. But I think the infield is where this lineup can get really dangerous. These are the moves that I'm excited about. We would have to start by moving one of either Alec Boehm or Bryson Stott. Let's face it, okay? They both haven't turned in to what we thought they would. And I'm tired of waiting. I really am. The Phillies championship window is closing. It's closing fast. We don't have time to wait on players who should have broken out already, okay? I'm tired of waiting on it. We've given them enough time. This is what they are, and it's not good enough. It's not good enough to win a championship. We need to be better. So that being said, I'd rather trade Boehm than Stott because Stott's shown me more than Boehm throughout their short time in the show. So you start off, you trade Alec Boehm for, like a pudding snack pack. Like, just get him out of here, okay? Literally just get him off the roster so the third base is open. Now you do one of a couple things just to send a message to the rest of the league. Option number one, you go and you sign Alex Bregman to be your third baseman. Bregman only played in 114 games for the Red Sox last season and still managed to hit .273 with 18 homers and 62 RBIs. He was also still named an All-Star despite playing in that few games. His 162 game average for his career is .272 with 28 bombs and 96 RBIs, and he won a Gold Glove in 2024 with Houston. That is what we call an immediate upgrade in every sense of the word from Alec Boehm, and gives Harper and Schwarber protection in the lineup in the form of a right-handed bat. I mean, I actually get excited thinking of what this guy could produce with the left field stands at Citizens Bank Park, knowing what he's done in Houston and in Boston. And yeah, he's going to cost a prettier penny than most of the other options I brought up at this point, but I think it would be worth it to make us a serious contender to the Dodgers in the National League. And a lot of fans have been trying to convince themselves that the Phillies are somehow in on the Ketel Marte sweepstakes in Arizona. I hate to burst your bubble, but don't hold your breath. I think that's very unlikely. I think it's unlikely that he goes anywhere this offseason, if I'm being frank. He's a 3-time All-Star, a 2-time Silver Slugger, and he's finished top 5 in MVP voting twice. Not only do I think he's the best second baseman in baseball, but I think Ketel Marte is more valuable to the Arizona Diamondbacks than any other player on the trade market this offseason is to their team. He's a switch hitter in his prime, and he only makes $16 million a season until 2032. And the Diamondbacks know that, okay? Like, Arizona knows exactly how valuable that is. And they're going to make sure anyone trying to trade for him does as well. I mean, can you imagine what haul he's going to fetch? Like, seriously, they're going to ask the Phillies for Andrew Painter and Aiden Miller at a minimum, if not for more than that. It's not worth it. And even if you think it is worth it, the Phillies have shown that they won't budge on their top prospects. So it ain't going to happen. If there was any chance that they would budge on their top prospects, they would have pulled the trigger last season. So I just think that's not going to happen. I hate to burst your bubble. But the last option is a recent development that I think the Phillies could legitimately be in play for, okay? Matt Gelb of The Athletic reported yesterday that Bo Bichette is set to have a conference with the Phillies later this week. Bichette was an all-star for the Blue Jays last season. He hit .311 with 18 homers and 94 RBIs for Toronto on their way to an American League pennant. He was projected to be one of the top free agents this offseason. But, much like Kyle Tucker, who we talked about, he doesn't seem to be getting what he expected on the open market. Bichette is a true shortstop, but he played second base for Toronto in the World Series due to a lingering injury. So, I mean, it's not like he's limited to playing short. So the plan would have to be to move him to third base instead of having Bryson Stott or Trey Turner do it. Like I said, this is still in the situation where Alec Boehm is no longer on the Phillies. Turner has never played third in his entire MLB career, and the Phillies moved Stott to second a few years back because they were worried about his arm at shortstop. So if that's the case, then I doubt that they would consider moving him to the hot corner if they had doubts about his arm from shortstop. So Bo would have to slot in at third and be another big right-handed bat in the heart of the Phil's order. That sounds like a dream to me. Like, the more I think about this move, the more I think it makes sense. Bichette is a 27-year-old right-handed production bat with 5-tool talent. He slots right into the middle of this order. Also, the Phillies recently signed Don Mattingly to be their bench coach in 2026. You know where Don Mattingly was last year? He was in Toronto with the Blue Jays as their bench coach. And Bichette has spoken at length about the relationship he formed with Mattingly last season in Toronto. Maybe he can coerce Bo into coming with him into Philly. Who knows? He would likely cost a good bit, but the Phillies have money to spend after trading Strahm, and especially if they're not going to re-sign Ranger, JT, or even Bader, what's stopping them? I think that they should pull the trigger. Seriously, I think that move shows everyone in the National League that they are serious about competing with the Dodgers this season. If Dombrowski pulls off even one of these moves, I'll be pumped for the new season, and I'll have much higher hopes for a deep playoff run because right now, it just ain't doing it for me. I'm not there. If Dombrowski knows what's good for him, his work this offseason is far from over. That is our show, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning into this State of the Phillies offseason episode of the Willadelphia Show. How do you feel about Dave Dombrowski's offseason so far? What moves should the Phillies make to show they mean business this offseason? Let me know all of that and more in the comments. Like and subscribe to Willadelphia Sports on YouTube and follow us on social media. We'll see you next time. Go Birds and Kabooyah!